Hello and welcome to Tracy Mommy Reads. I am back again with another video. Today I am going to be talking about The Spy Coast by Tess Gerritsen. The Spy Coast. So this book is considered, it's in the thriller genre. I would also say there's some espionage because there's government stuff involved. And as you may be able to glean from the title, yes, there are spies involved, okay? When I was reading this book, I was immediately getting, even from the blurb, I felt like it was gonna be like in a similar vein as Killers of a Certain Age by Deanna Raybourn. And, you know, Red vibes. I don't know if you all have ever seen that movie, but I think it stars Bruce Willis, John Malkovich, Helen Mirren, and they're like basically all like older spies, like over age 50, that have retired, but now they've been pulled into something and they got to come back out, you know, in the words of a famous MC, they got to pop out and show people what they are capable of and that they still got it. It's similar in this book as well. So when the book starts off, there's a woman who, there are men after her, right? And she has to do what she refers to as dispatch them. She's dispatched them, meaning that she's unalived them, right? To get away from them trying to capture her or potentially kill her, right? And just from that first chapter, those first few pages, you're like sucked into the story, wondering, number one, like, why are they trying to kill her? And number two, who is she that she's so badass that she could do this to two, you know, fully armed, full grown men? And that's, you know, kind of where the story starts. And then you learn that there are multiple players involved, because that's just one woman. Then the next chapter, like, we get, you know, the next character who, the bulk of it is really her story, right? And she's older now. I think she's like almost 60, if not 60. She's living on a farm. You know, she has chickens and, you know, other animals in a rural town. She's pretty much isolated. She has some neighbors up the road, but she's just living a quiet, lonely, actually, if you're being honest, life, just, you know, taking care of her farm. And it doesn't seem, she doesn't seem like, she seems very unsuspecting until like there's a something happens where I think another animal is trying to get to her chickens, and the precision in which she deals with that animal calls into question, you know, like, okay, who are you? But we soon learn her name is Maggie, and through her we also learn that the other woman from the first chapter, her name is Diana. And this is the biggest piece of it to keep in mind. They don't like each other, those two, okay? They have a history that you learn more about as the story goes on, because it is told in like past and present tense, describing, you know, what they were doing back then and what some of their assignments were and who they were working for. All of that's revealed throughout the story. And the thing that I thought was pretty, like, clever, and again, it was giving me Killers of a Certain Age and Reds type vibes, is that one of the ways that Maggie, like, it's obvious she's a retired spy, right? But one of the ways that she came to know about the town where she is that there are other people there like her that are retired from service, okay? So keep that in mind. And they all have like a little book club where I think more drinking and reminiscing is done than actually reading books. But they are a tight group. You know, they're not the only ones in that town. There's a lot of other people in the town, including the sheriff, who don't know that they are living amongst them, right? But I think it's like 5 of them. The 4 or 5 of them, they're like all really tight and they watch each other's back. So when someone from Maggie's past literally shows up on her doorstep, you know, or basically they bring the past to her. They literally show up on her doorstep, you know, her book club friends. They you know, they jump in to like be of assistance, right? And it's just so much was going on, and you know, it kept you interested because you're just really wondering, like, what, number one, do these people want with this woman after all these years? She's a 60-year-old chicken farmer. Like, how dangerous could she be to whatever happened back then? You know, and again, like I said, with the past and present, you know, Maggie's recollection of what's going on, what happened back then, and then coupled with what's actually going on, we learn what the story is, right? The issue that happened, which I'm not going to tell you, but it was 24 years ago. So again, I say, leave this lady alone. I mean, but you know, sometimes the past literally won't stay buried. You know, it just won't stay buried. So now it's come back, and she's gonna have to get back in action and deal with it, or she's never gonna be safe, nor will the people, you know, around her be safe, you know, especially some of the civilians that she's gotten close with. You know, she doesn't want to bring that, I mean, it's already infiltrated their town, right? But she doesn't want any more of it to happen. So she sets off on a journey to, you know, figure out what's going on, who's after her, and put a stop to it before, you know, they hurt people who have nothing to do with that. And like I said in another, or probably several videos, the majority of books in this genre, where it's like a thriller, mystery, you know, suspense type thing, and this I feel like leans a lot more towards thriller, because there's literally a lot of like chasing and, you know, trying to get to somewhere before someone else does and try to figure out something, a lot of cat and mouse type stuff going on. But again, I will say that most books in those genres, at the root of what's going on in the book, it's about revenge. Somebody did something to somebody, and they're trying to get them back, right? And you know, even if somebody ends up dead or kidnapped or whatever, it's because somebody wanted to get revenge on, you know, somebody. And it's no different in this book. There is a lot of you know, people. Well, it's specifically a person, but there is somebody hell-bent on revenge, right? So anyway, as Maggie embarks on trying to figure out what is going on, it brings up old memories about her, this guy who was the love of her life named Danny, and what happened to him, and you know, the last time she saw him, which was one of the reasons she left. Like, she retired herself, right? She just was like, I'm done with this. You know, I don't want to be a spy anymore. I don't want to go on these missions. And she got out. And that was like 24 years prior, right? But she starts to also come across people that she used to work with and went on assignments with back in the day, and, you know, kind of learn what happened to them after she left, right? Including her arch nemesis Diana, okay? And that's like that whole scene with the two of them. You know, you're thinking that maybe you had it wrong, or maybe they were gonna like be able to bury the past, but no, that didn't happen. But anyway, you know, there's more like murder, there's more secrets that come out, and then we finally learn who the real villain is, or who the person is that kind of orchestrated everything, and what their motives were. Like I said, revenge. I feel like in the end we got all the answers. I will tell you that there was nothing left hanging as far as, well, why and who and where and how. All that was answered, okay? And even the person that ended up being like the villain, 1000% made sense. It totally made sense. So from that standpoint, the ending was satisfying, but it did I feel like the authors, I feel like this is probably going to be a part of a series. It must be, because most authors that do this type of thing, it's because they're setting up the next story. It's like they tell you they all lived happily ever after, you know, and maybe the couple is staring out at the sunset. But then they'll say something like, but little did they notice the man standing behind them with a knife. And that's like, you know, that's not what this book says, but I'm just giving you an example. And then that's how the book cuts off. Like, you think that these people are about to ride off into the sunset, and, you know, everything's, you know, Maggie has solved everything and everything's fine. But then they throw that last chapter or that last page in there, like somebody's still watching, or somebody's still doing something, or somebody still hasn't gotten enough revenge. And you're just like, well, what does that mean? You know? So I don't know. I'm going to have to do some more research to let you guys know whether or not this is actually going to be a part of a series. I don't know that, like, I know in the book, Killers of a Certain Age, there is definitely going to be a sequel to that book. I am all in. I'm totally invested. I want to see more of those women. I don't know that I feel the same about The Spy Coast. Like I said, you know, it was a really good book, well written, you know, fast paced, kept my interest and everything. But even Maggie, the main character, like the way she was written, you could tell she's tired and she wants to just be a chicken farmer and hang out with her martini friends in their little book club and live a calm life. Like, she doesn't want to be dragged back into that shit, right? So I don't know if there are plans for a sequel, if it's going to involve other characters and maybe not Maggie. But I know, like, in Killers of a Certain Age, like, all those women, you know, after they did what they had to do to get from under the thumb of their previous organization, there were other things that came up, and they're like, well, we're not done. Let's handle it. Like, they wanted to do that, and they were, you know. But so I don't know. I didn't get the feeling, like, with The Spy Coast, that the characters would be interested in continuing to, you know, with unfinished business. Like, they helped Maggie with her stuff, and, you know, let's be done with that type thing. Even though a couple of them are pretty bored, like, with the life that they're living after, you know, you're being a spy and having that life. But they're all, like I said, well into their 60s now. And I just think, and a couple of them are older than that. I just think that sometimes with some of those instances, and I'm totally pro aging, you know, I feel like there are some incredibly brilliant, incredibly strong, incredibly, you know, creative and talented people that are over, like, age 50. There are some people, you know, who are just getting started with what they are capable of doing. But at the same time, as a reader, like let's say you have a group of people and they have varying ages, and maybe one of the people is like 65 years old, and they, you know, are incredibly sharp and they're doing all this stuff and they're working, but the other group is helping them to maybe that to me is more plausible than thinking that a group of people who have been out of commission for over 20 years and they're in their late 60s and they haven't really been, you know, keeping up with the latest, like, as far as maybe, I don't know, they're just not maybe as sharp as they used to be, which that happens as we age. It just seems forced and unbelievable sometimes, you know, that could this 60-year-old woman have legitimately taken down 2 special ops guys with guns? And, you know, I'm not saying that is impossible, but okay, if we do that once, okay, next time I'm gonna need her to fall down or get a little bumped up, or because even people in their prime might have a problem taking down 2 people like that. You see what I'm saying? So there was a couple of instances like that, but for the most part, you know, I felt like it was well done. I don't like when I read stories. And maybe it's my fault. Let me back up. It's probably totally my fault for maybe not doing all the research, because I think that this book has been out for a while. So if there's plans to do a series, it's probably well known that that's the plan. And maybe I didn't do enough research to ensure that I didn't read a book like that if I wasn't going to be interested in continuing, you know. But all in all, you know, that's also one of my favorite subgenres, the espionage trope, you know, where you have like spies or badass people, especially women, kicking ass and taking names and, you know, trying to beat the clock to get this done or trying to clear somebody's name. I love that kind of stuff in thriller books. So from that standpoint, I really, really enjoyed it. Like I said, I wanted Maggie to have closure. And I don't know if like the ending means that somebody's still coming for her, or if it's just somebody still out there maybe coming for other people from that time. You know what I mean? So maybe shame on me for not doing all my research, which I will do now that I've read the book, just to see, because I liked Maggie's character, but I just don't know that I want to get pulled into this particular world. I didn't find it as interesting or satisfying as Killers of a Certain Age. Anyway, The Spy Coast by Tess Gerritsen. You know, I know I'm probably rambling there at the end, but if you've read The Spy Coast and you know what I'm talking about, let me know in the comments your thoughts. Or if you have some more insight as to what's going on, maybe with The Spy Coast and other books that are planned as spin-offs, and if Maggie's going to still be one of the characters in them. So anyway, thanks you guys so much for watching. Make sure that you like this video and take the opportunity to subscribe to my channel if you have not done so already. And also turn on that post notification bell. And one last thing, share my videos with people who you think may enjoy them or may have some interest in the books that I'm talking about. Thanks again. See you next week. Bye. Me again. I'm just inserting this quick sidebar here because I did discover that the Spy Coast is a part of a series called the Martini Club. And book 2 is actually, I'm looking at this, is scheduled to come out next year in March 18th, 2025. And it's called The Summer Guest. And Maggie will be a part of that. And it looks like there was a sheriff in the book, a female sheriff by the name of Joe Thibodeau. And she was kind of suspicious of Maggie and her friends. She didn't know, you know, because Maggie left the town to go handle her business or whatever, but she just knew something was up with that whole group and how they knew stuff. And, you know, I think one of them confessed that he used to work for the CIA or something like that. And so now it looks like somebody's gonna come up missing and Joe's gonna go to them for help. So maybe that's what's gonna end up happening with this series, with Joe as the primary, like, you know, police officer, and she has this ragtag group of older people, connected people helping her solve crimes. And even having said all that, don't know that I'm 100% interested or invested, but good to know I'm not crazy with that ending. So anyway, bye.